Okay, so before we go on to anything else, if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to briefly run through chakras, okay, and their colour relationships, so that it's on audio and it's on, as energy therapists, you know, we can't do this sort of stuff without talking about chakras and colours, so we need to put the book. Okay, so chakras are an energy map. I mean, it's one of the things that Si and I always say is it's one of many energy maps. There's no one energy map that works for everything. The reason that chakras are very useful when we're talking about nutrition is the fact that from the throat chakra down to the root chakra, this is the area of nutrition. So, you know, it's like we've got to work this one. And tend to work on the basis of the classical original Vedic descriptions of chakras. So the root chakra is at the base of the spine. Some people call it the base chakra, root chakra, yeah. And we're going to use, for the sake of nutrition, the rainbow colour relationship to it. It's not the original, it's the sort of 1960s one, but it works, and from a food point of view it works. Having said that, I will also talk a little bit about the original system, because that works too, but food is really good. So the root chakra is linked to the colour red. Now the root chakra, as a physical energetic state, it's a vortex of energy that's created by large energy flows in the body. And it's associated with movement, it's associated with the ability to interact physically with the material world. So on a physical level, very important, walking around, running around, sitting down, what have you. From an emotional, mental point of view, it's the positive emotions are enthusiasm, drive. The negative emotions are anger and over-assertiveness, selfishness. It's very much, it's to do with survival, the chakra, so it's a survival drive. Now in the original texts, the chakras weren't linked to the endocrine glands, that's the glands in the body that release hormones. But we can deduce from the fact that the root chakra is to do with survival, get up and go, energies either here or it's not, that it's very much associated with adrenaline and the adrenal glands. There are some schools of thought that's to do with reproduction because it's to do with survival. But I think from the original Vedic description of the root chakra, the adrenal glands fits pretty well.
That's because in the womb the adrenal glands were much lower down, and as the baby develops they go further up.
Right, yeah. So it's all to do with that sort of state. And so it's associated with the colour red. So as we were talking this morning, so red foods, or foods that work in a red way that may not actually be the colour red, will have an effect on the energetics linked to the root chakra. So, for example, many minerals are linked to the colour red. And in fact, if you have poor mineral constituents in your food, it's very hard to stay grounded and in reality. And I think one of the most obvious things with this is when you get people, especially youngsters, who eat McDonald's and all the rest a lot, they're actually, even though some of them are fortified, some of the foods are fortified, they actually don't have really good bioavailable minerals and vitamins in it. And the minerals in particular, lack of, particularly for teenagers, you lose the emotional stability, and you're going to get a lot more anger, a lot more knife edge emotions, where because the safety's lost, you've lost the link to the planet. So root chakra is very much to do with that, and foods that work or act in a red way. Now the next chakra up is halfway between the navel, if I put the navel in, halfway between the navel and the base of the spine, the coccyx. This is called the sacral chakra. And in Western colour system, it's linked to the colour orange. Actually, it's probably worth actually saying here, in the Vedic original system, it's linked to colour white. Because in fact, both colours actually do tell us a fair bit about the food that's linked into this. I mean, orange, penny dropping, yes. Orange foods, we talk about orange foods and brown foods, okay, are going to help the function of the second chakra. And the second chakra, in its physical part, is very much to do with letting go of what you don't need anymore. So physically, it's the large intestine, and it's the whole thing about releasing the waste out of the physical body. Emotionally, it's the ability to let go and the ability not to let go. So people who hold on to their emotions, people who are very, very rigid, then this is the flip side of the second chakra. So one of the things you can help people with if they are in that state is to make sure that their large intestine is functioning properly. Because if you can tackle it on the physical level, the emotional and other levels will tend to sort of fall into place.
And my sister's always suffered from constipation.
Yeah.
And she's got the anger.
The anger.
And
the resentment.
The resentment. So
that's right.
all the two.
The other thing as well is if somebody's had a big shock, then it's usually the second chakra that either stops or goes over. You know, you hear people have really big shock, and then they, let's put it politely, they evacuate their bowels. Yeah. Yeah, because the second chakra is kicked, has been affected. And again, this is an orange quality. So sometimes you find when people have, like the lady with the carrots from earlier today, is that sometimes people who've had a lot of shock, they suddenly get attracted to orange things. And it's partially to remove the shock out of the system, but also to get the physical system in a state that's able to let go of the shock to the system. Now, from endocrine gland sort of situation, sacral chakra is very much linked into fertility, gonads, reproduction. Things that, if our Victorian forefathers had their way, we wouldn't have any fun with, because they were into sort of avoiding that, which is why a lot of the old translations to do with chakra information is so misleading about sacral chakra and solar plexus, because it was translated by people who thought they didn't dare talk about sex. And enjoy it. Oh no, definitely not. So this was never talked about. Okay, but from a food point of view, we're looking at foods that actually help release, help to detox. And funnily enough, a lot of dairy products fall into the sacral chakra because of the whiteness, and also things like fish, because it's a water chakra, it's a water element. Okay, so next chakra up is above the navel, about halfway between the navel and the xiphoid process, which is the bit where the ribs come up. That's the xiphoid process. So it's halfway between that and the navel is where the solar plexus chakra is. And this is linked to the colour yellow in the Western system. And so this takes us all into all the yellow foods, of which there are quite a lot. And it actually links us into vitamins as well. Not all vitamins, some are linked into the orange area, but most vitamins are linked into yellow. The skin vibrates to yellow. So we laughed earlier about feeding your skin. Skin is a yellow vibration. And the solar plexus is a very complex group of chakras. It's actually several chakras in a very small area. That's why it's called a plexus. And it really is, digestion-wise, a lot going on here, because you've got stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, spleen. So you've got a lot here that is part of the digestive process, and inevitably, because it's part of the digestive process, there's a lot here that can go wrong.
As a medium, they refer to that area as the spleen chakra.
Yeah, and that's the old school. Splenic chakra is the old school. Yeah, because like I said, it's actually several lots of little chakras, but they're taken as one, as a whole. Yeah, and so this is physically is like really important for digestion. Because it's, we were saying, if things have gone wrong at this area, sure as hell they're not going to be right when you get down to the sacral and down to the actual final release anchoring point at the root. And so from a physical point of view, you've got the skin, like we said, you've got all the digestive organs. You've also got the immune system. Its main link is here as well, because it's part of how the body identifies things. So when you have people with allergies and intolerances, then these are solar plexus issues. The body's inability to identify foods correctly. And of course, if it can't identify what the food is, it's not going to know what to do with it. I think we said last week, or last time we met, was that one of the problems you have with allergies, intolerances, and the other energy version of people's body not being able to deal with foods. Allergies is just don't know what to do with foods at all, particular foods. Intolerances can deal with a certain amount, but there's actually two different immunosystems at work between those two. And the last one is like there's not an allergy or intolerance present, but the body just doesn't seem to be able to have enough energy, enough prana to be able to process a food. And of course these days with so much eating away at people's energy levels, this is becoming more apparent than it was even when I had my own clinic.
It's the main thing that we were taught in Ayurveda.
Is people don't have enough prana, to digest the foods that they're eating. And of course, if you haven't got enough prana to digest the food, when you digest food, you're actually losing energy.
You're using energy.
Enough back.
Replenishing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it does become a chakra with some serious implications to do with nutrition.
I suppose there's also caught up in there a lot of the emotional stuff around eating too, our belief systems and the way we see things.
It is. It's
how we want to order things.
That's right, and it's also it's like worries and fears and concerns and lack of enjoyment, contentment. It's like we were saying when you were saying about your lamb earlier. Did you enjoy the lamb?
Yeah, that was a fantastic
that's the main thing, because if you enjoy the food, the chances are the body's actually going to deal with it better. We're not talking about craving addictive things like, got to have my chocolate sort of thing, but I mean, genuinely enjoy the food. The body actually works beautifully with that. But where there's worry, where there's concern, where there's fear, then your digestion's not going to work. So we're watching Montalbano, the detective series on BBC 4, and he's got that thing where he doesn't talk when he's eating, which, as we were saying last week, is really important. And it's like, again, it's distraction. Especially if you're chewing your food properly, you're not going to be able to talk at the same time. Okay. So if we move up to the next chakra up, which is the heart chakra, the centre of the chest. Now, in both Vedic and Western terms, this resonates to the colour green. So on a physical level, you've got the diaphragm is actually on the borderline between the solar plexus and the heart chakra. And so breathing becomes an important support for good digestion, because correct breathing massages the digestive organs, as well as giving you enough energy that you've actually taken the oxygen you take in to actually fuel the functioning of the body from that point of view.
We get some frail people at the hospital that get exhausted from eating.
Yes.
And it's often when they've got breathing problems.
Yes. And also the fact is if their energy is very low anyway, when you've eaten, the body will deal with the food.
Yeah, and
everything else will shut down.
Yeah.
So, it's like if you get tired after a meal and it's not because you've pigged out, then it's probably actually that you need to look at what's going on in your system. Because if you're getting tired after a fairly small meal and you think you're okay, you're actually probably not. Having said that, I mean, it is good. It's good habit to not race up and do a marathon after you've eaten. It's probably quite nice to actually give your body a chance to digest it. And because like animals do.
Have a big meal.
Have a big meal and just have a bit of a nap.
Sounds a good idea to me.
Yeah. So on a emotional level, it's to do with the breathing and the workings of the diaphragm. And it's on emotions, you're dealing with relationships to things, relationships to other people, relationships to yourself, things that give and take, the ability to share. So sharing meals, sharing food, not just sharing a meal, is actually quite a nice way to actually open up that sort of functioning of the body. And of course, green foods. So you're talking here about fruits and veg that are green.
I hate it if it's not green on the plate.
Yeah, and it tends to be indicative of mineral content, vitamin content. And a couple of other things as well. But it's, you're going to get minerals in green stuff. But it's your bits. Now, interesting, if we go up to the next chakra up, we go up to the throat chakra. Now, the throat chakra in the neck is linked to the whole area of the mouth, ear, nose, throat. And of course, this is where digestion starts with the chewing of the food. So yes, if you're not chewing your food, things go a bit adrift. Now, the throat is also primarily to do with expression, personal expression. So one of the things you sometimes find is when people have trouble swallowing, and this can actually be one of the symptoms that people are with anorexic or bulimic, is that actually throat chakra issues can be tackled in a different way. Getting them to sing, getting them to read out loud, getting them to actually express themselves does sometimes help to loosen up this, because that's often, it's the process of eating that's the problem, feeling the food go down the gullet that's the problem.
Interesting, when Ruth, the one who had the eating disorder, she couldn't stand reading out loud to the teacher.
Yeah.
She hated it. She could read to me, but she wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's a lot to do with expression.
She did go to singing classes.
Yeah, but if you can loosen up the chakra in some way, not just the way to, because there are very few blue foods.
I was about to say blue's quite hard to come by.
Well, usually when we think of blue foods, we can think of foods that have gone off. Yeah, it's one of the marketing amazements of the original packaging of Heinz beans in its turquoise can, that it was ever a success, because it was like it's the one colour that you don't usually put food in, because people's instinct is it's gone off. Because blue foods, there's very few. There's a few foods that act in a blue way, but blueberries, that sort of thing. But things like asparagus are very rich, and other things are very rich in iodine, because iodine is very much linked to the throat and to the thyroid. Yeah, so it's and it's like when we go off to Japan because of Fukushima, we take iodine supplements to actually bolster the function of the thyroid, to actually keep it safe, because it's one of the areas that gets really hit with radioactivity. happens, like you're saying, the people with, like Brian was saying about the lady had her Graves' disease and had her thyroid out. It's the body, there's attraction to blue food, blue clothes rather, is telling you there's something going on with the blue area of the body. So as far as the chakras are concerned, I mean, that's the main ones. The other sort of colour foods, which are going to link to the upper two chakras, if you like, is getting into the violet and the dark blue areas of the brow and the crown. These tend to be foods that, by and large, don't tend to be particularly legal. Although, having said that, some of the herbs, like basil, and some of the other things that if you make a tea of, it's very, very relaxing. But, things like...
because basil is good for study. If your kids are studying,
relaxes.
Use a burner with some basil in it.
Relaxes. But I mean, the sort of foods like magic mushrooms, all that stuff. They're all seriously foods. But interestingly, the crown chakra, stroke violet, has got an illusory quality to it, because one of the things that there is the illusion side of it is that not everything you see is as it is, sort of thing. And so it could be argued that things like genetically modified foods that are not foods, or where there is an idealistic issue about the way the foods are being pushed at people, and also the misinformation, like nobody's business, about certain types of foods, would actually give them a violet, as far as the colour therapy will give them a violet vibe. So one of the nice things is when you can actually park the function of the body, the function of the digestion, and the function of your nutrients in these, they're much easier to remember. Because otherwise it can seem awfully dry to sit there and learn the stuff off by rote. Not to be recommended, as far as that's concerned anyway. So we started off, we looked at amino acids and proteins. They're very much red foods, in as much as they're bodybuilding quality. The fats and fatty acids are very much, if you like, the lubricants. They're the things that allow flow in the body, energy flow. So they'll come into the orange, white, sacral chakra bits of it.
What was that again? The fatty?
The fats and fatty acids very much come into the sacral chakra. And of course, you see, if you've got somebody who's really arthritic, then the rigidity lack of flow is associated with the second chakra. And then we come into the vitamin department.
Can I just ask, what would cauliflower come under? Because that is in the sort of cauliflower family.
Yeah, well, it would probably be a mixture, depending on what part of cauliflower you use, whether it will be white or green.